Good evening. Welcome to the Sutton Conservation Commission meeting, Wednesday, April 5th, 2017, 7 p.m., 360 Rear Boston Road. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 5th, 2017 at 7:05 p.m. Can I read this one in yet? Sutton Town Hall, Forest Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Virginia Parker, Jamaica Plains, Massachusetts. The project consists of replacing an existing field septic system within 200 feet of Lake Singletary on map 16, parcel 14 on 360R Boston Road, Sutton, Mass. And this is not till 7:05. So, I read it in early.
Good for you. Love the effort.
Brandon, 78 Torrey Road. Special condition.
Charlotte's been asking me questions.
Questions that I couldn't answer.
Yeah.
Whom is asking questions?
Shallow,
Charlotte.
you know, down at, where they put the roadway in.
And she likes to text me.
Lucky fella.
I don't know if I still have it.
Oh, I sent you an email.
There's an email too. Charlotte Crowell. Did you get our email? Everything she's asking about right now doesn't have to be taken care of. It can wait a little longer. She's already gotten the partial certificate of compliance. She's in good shape. She's not ready for a full certificate of compliance. She asked for a lot of small, really minute questions, because she seems to be very detail-oriented, more than a lot of other people I've ever met, which is good, but stuff that just really doesn't have to be concerned about at the moment. Nothing that's going to stop her from using her property. I talked with her consultant, though, Ed Avazinas. He's the guy who did the biological studies and the wetland replication area. And he said that he's going to be going out next week to check on to see how well that vernal pool's working out. Because remember, we had the replication area with a vernal pool component, so he's going to see how that's working, and he's going to get back to me and write a little report. So, we're in good shape. She's in good shape.
Good. The minutes, have we gone through?
Yeah, I done the ones from February and March 1st, and then you didn't get them emailed to you at the last meeting, and then wanted to send them out again.
We did them
Yeah.
out Monday. I sent them out Monday.
Well, the new one,
Again, the new one,
Monday of which week?
the 15th.
this week. I sent them out this Monday.
Nope,
And,
I don't think I
because
got them.
Joyce had no computer, so she had to come up here Monday to finish.
You must have sent them to Joyce's computer then.
No, well, I have
Every
Verizon,
time
and
I send them,
they
it comes back as a,
evidently they're transitioning over their emails to other things, and I thought it was a scam, so I didn't do anything. Yeah,
Verizon?
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not until May something.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
mine was March 25th.
No, mine's April 28th, I gotta do something.
Yeah, so now
So
I,
it's not a scam then, right?
so it's not a
I'm thinking the
scam,
same thing.
and now I have to buy a new computer.
Oh,
You killed
Really?
her computer.
Thought you didn't have one.
No, I had one, an old one, but I had one. So now I have no email. But you should have gotten that, because she sent them out Monday.
None of us got it.
I don't think I got them.
Makes three of us.
Oh, it's not just your computer. I don't think we're on Verizon, we're on Gmail. But we have Verizon.
So did you people get the February 15th and March 1st ones? Because she sent those out again after,
The next day after the last
then,
meeting.
yeah.
That was the one you made the change on.
Yes.
I don't remember which one it
Yeah.
was, but I thought those two would,
Well, no, that wasn't the one, I don't
Oh,
think
that
you
was
made the
before
change.
that.
That was before that.
Before
Those
that.
were the two that we were gonna do, and then you people didn't get them. And so she sent them out again the next day.
I've gotten several from Wanda, but not the minutes.
Oh, so you've gotten several emails this week?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, that's strange.
You're the most
Sent them
deleted
out
on my
Monday.
computer.
And I didn't send send them on Monday. I send them out right after you finish
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I was here when you did it.
Well, now you got me think.
What was the date?
April,
The 3rd, April 3rd.
Let me turn it back on. That would have been Monday.
Yeah.
yeah, it was a short one.
April
It was in
3rd,
the
no.
afternoon.
No, I did not get
I think
anything.
it was like 1,
Yeah, it was,
1:30.
yeah. No, it was more like 12:30, quarter one.
No.
I'll double check mine once this is booted back up.
I just wonder if our tech knows that this is all transforming. Because I'm wondering, we're on Gmail.
7:07.
360R Boston Road.
So we'll just.
Come on down.
Yes, there's no butters here, so let me turn this. All right, for the record, Mike Bierker, from Civil Site Engineering, representing Virginia Parker. This is a septic repair to an existing cottage on Lake Singletary, 360R. Sits about approximately 3,000 feet in from Boston Road itself, northwestly of Boston Road. It's just a one-floor cottage with an existing cesspool. Want to replace this failed cesspool with a conventional type system. We are outside the 100-foot AURA area, but within the 200-foot AURA area. Basically, the septic tank and a pump chamber sits down, and as you can see, we have some pictures here. We've tried to place this and to preserve some of the maples that are sitting in the area. So we've saved pretty much everything you've seen. This little 4-inch maple that sits right here would be gone, but everything else is good. All the other trees are going to stay there. And it's the same thing with the erosion control. We made it so that it's all inside these trees that sit down on the second level, which is down in here. And for the most part, that's all lawn in here, and this is a large outside fireplace and cooking area that sits over here. I think Margaret talked to Brandon or emailed Brandon today, so we did a revised plan showing the flat cards. So we put 1, 2, 3, 4 right along the second wall, right at the face of the second wall. So this is all lawn area and usable area here with their fireplace. And that pretty much sums it up. The septic system's been approved, and that pertains to the system, all the construction, excavation for the system. The second part of this, I believe Margaret had talked to Brandon, and as you see, I've given you a couple pictures, and there's a copy of the picture of the house, and this is a boathouse or a changing area down abutting the water line. And what they would like to do is point up some of the existing stones for the steps in the top part of the concrete wall, which is stone in here. And that, they're not gonna propose to do anything there till the fall, when the next drawdown.
That was the conversation we had,
Yeah.
because the water's already come up.
Yeah, we were standing there, absolutely. And the person who does it, I guess, James, I don't know what his last name is, does a lot of walls along.
Bangston.
Yes, and that's what he was saying, we're just gonna wait till the fall to draw down to take care of that area there, so. But if we could get it permitted at this point, along with this, they wouldn't have to come back. So, other than that, any questions, I'd be happy to.
Looks like that 4-inch maple is gonna have to come down.
It is, yes.
Any others coming down?
No,
Do you have any plans to replace it anywhere else?
no, but if you want it replaced, I'm sure we could. The 4-inch, we could probably just replant the one that's there. shot at that. Just move it outside, anywhere up front here, up on this side here. I really don't want to dig down there, but I mean, I suppose we could put something on the bottom end of the wall in that side there.
That would
You
be
mean-
good.
As a replant,
That would
give it
be-
a shot.
That would be consistent with policy.
Yeah. Put that in your, condition that. And,
Good, they put up the signs.
yeah.
The point worked on at the water is really an exempt activity because it is repairing in kind. But my comment was that the water's already come up. And he says, well, we're gonna wait till the fall.
Yeah.
They don't really even need permission from that, for that it's just exempt, under the bylaw for maintenance and repair.
To what extent?
Is that,
To what extent? I mean, if you tear the wall down completely, put a new footing under it, and build a wall up, that's still maintenance in kind, or is that new construction?
I would say that would be new construction, but they're not planning to do that. If you look,
I agree with new construction
yeah,
from what you're saying. But you're saying they would just, what I've heard
That's
is just they
right.
wanna point it.
Yeah.
that's right.
I just would like to condition our approval
Yeah.
on, minor adjustment to the stone and pointing the wall versus digging it all up and redoing
I
it.
agree.
Exactly.
I haven't seen it, I don't know what they got in mind, but I
Well,
don't think.
on this picture, the bigger pictures I've given you, if you take a look, is a concrete wall,
Right, it's just-
retaining wall,
Yeah.
and then there's stone that sit on top of that, this little piece of stone, and they're gonna repoint that, and this is stone on this side here all the way down, and they're just gonna repoint that side and some of the steps. I don't know if you
I
have.
do have some.
Yeah, perfect.
Let me start from, just
Yeah.
get down to that area.
Yep.
Okay, so,
One for each eye.
that, that's interesting. Here we go.
Yeah. This, as you can see, that's a concrete retaining wall. It sits to this point here, and then they have stone point that sits on top of that retaining wall. This is staying, they're not doing anything with the retaining wall. It's the stone up above, you can see is getting pushed, so they're gonna repoint that. That, they're gonna repoint, yeah, exactly.
You gonna do
Right
anything
there,
with this
the
stair?
steps, they're gonna repoint the steps, and then this side of the steps, there's a wall that comes back
Oh,
out
this
this way.
is just a.
That's just concrete retaining wall, nothing being touched there.
Okay.
Yeah. That's right, this right here, that's stone out, so they're gonna repoint that side there also.
Right.
Okay, and then the other thing was, I think Margaret talked to you about, if you can take a look at the building itself, they'd like to do some repairs on the building, some of the siding, replace, there's some planking, I think you had that on, right at the
I
beginning.
got pictures of the house.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought, it looked pretty good with the planking, the shed on below.
That,
Now, there's the
Oh,
building down
the
below, yeah.
shed down
Yeah, those
at
are the
the-
fireplace I was
Shed-
talking
the shed-
about
the
there.
shed
Yeah, the
down
shed,
at
yes.
the water.
Yeah, yeah, you had a good picture when you started off there.
here we go. That,
You can see along this area here on the pictures we've given you, there's some of these, the siding there is rotted out. They'd like to repair that. The windows are broken, they'd like to replace the windows. And right here, this planking across this little drop depression there, those planking kind of rotted, and they just want to put a couple, repair them, place them. That's my understanding, that's about it.
I think it's.
That's, yeah, there's the tree in the middle of,
There we go.
Yep.
Just go right back to that.
perfect. So that's what they would like to have on this, so they can at least,
I suppose
maintain the building.
I suppose the condition for limited maintenance and repair in kind can be put on the order conditions for the boathouse and for the pointing, and with a condition that it's just repointing and does not expand.
No excavation.
No excavation, right? And it, maybe a good point would be that you condition it that it can only be done during a drawdown, and that you work in the dry.
How old is that building? That must be close to 100 years old, huh?
I'll tell you, that tree's a pretty good sized tree.
Yeah, the tree that was inside, it's more than that.
Yeah. The tree inside it, yeah.
Yeah, that's when they used to go Is that the one that used to go through the roof?
It's still there, it's not through the roof anymore, but
Then the maintenance of the building is just nothing structural, so we don't need to send a running slip to building department, do we?
If you're just reciting
He's
and
gonna
then
just-
replacing,
Right, that's
you
not-
don't even need.
No.
I don't think so, right?
That's their problem.
No, but we're supposed to be open communication with the other boards, right?
Mhm.
So,
You
I'm
can
sure
check-
we can send them-
You can check with her.
yeah,
Yeah.
I will.
I don't think so, I wouldn't think so.
So
Oh.
the septic tank,
Yep.
pump chamber, they're gonna be down in here. All right, so this maple tree's staying,
Yep,
it's already open, it's flat
yes,
too.
Yep.
So I imagine you got this retaining wall, how's the machine gonna get down here?
okay, this is, we had we're gonna get a mini down there, this is one of the plans. We'll dig out the existing septic tank, so we won't have a large excavator coming over the top.
Yeah.
So the mini, he can get down there, that's only about a 2-foot high stone wall.
Okay.
So the mini can get down there, but once he gets this, when he digs this septic tank, there's two things. I was explaining to the board earlier that a lot of the Jolly Precast, they have a really nice truck with the outriggers. They can get in there, and they can get out there about 15 to 18 feet. So it would be close whether he can sit here, come in this way, sit here and get that tank there. If he can't, we're gonna take this gravel out of here, we're gonna put plywood up against the existing wall, and then when they excavate here, we'll make a little pad about this high, even with the wall, so at least they can get the septic tank, and he can get the truck back there, drop the septic tank in. The plywood would keep the dirt from infiltrating into the stone wall, so that's kind of a dry wall, if you take a look at it. So, once you get that done, then they can take the spoils at this point, backfill some of the septic tank with that, clean that up, then they gotta dig the pump chamber, and the pump chamber will be easy for the truck to drop the pump
That was
chamber
gonna be
in.
my next question, Mike,
Yeah.
is you got the erosion controls kind of tight to the septic tank?
We
And you're
do.
gonna be digging a hole, and you're gonna need room.
It's gonna go with the pump chamber
You-
first, yeah,
So I wanna make sure you have enough room for your spoil.
yeah. And the reason we squeeze that in, we don't want any chance of, as you can see, the two trees on either, we kept the erosion control inside those two trees.
Okay.
Don't want anything touched there, and like I say, with the mini, it's a small track machine, rubber track machine. So we're trying to minimize as best we can, make sure no trees are.
And the leach field's going up in this area.
That is correct, it's, a little bit farther up, I believe.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, just
up in-
missing, yeah.
Up in this area.
Yeah, that's right, yes.
And which one of these is coming down, like this one?
The
right here?
4-inch, yes,
This one right here?
Yeah.
is gonna come down,
Yeah.
'cause and that one's near the corner.
that's right.
So it's
yes.
really gonna be from this corner up
Oh,
and into
yeah.
this, it's really just, it's kind of a driveway-ish.
It is, the main driveway sits in up above as we show, and this one here is like over, when they have a few more people park there. That's why, on our septic system, I know it doesn't matter to you guys, but we vented the septic system because it can possibly be under, some parking, so.
Okay.
And you think you can move the 4-inch tray, huh?
If we can't, we'll plant, but I
Yeah.
would say, they do it all the time, so I would say that, get the ball and,
See what happens.
Give it a
that's
try.
right, yeah, exactly, see what happens, yeah.
And you know that when you plant, you're gonna have to plant a 2.5 inch.
2.5-inch caliber, if it comes to that. So you're talking about an inch and a half difference of what we're gonna plant or what we're gonna try to replant. So,
I'm okay with it.
Any discussion?
I'd like to see if we could, a little erosion control on the property line.
Pardon?
A little erosion control on the property
Coming up
line.
this side?
Yeah.
Sure.
Once you regrade that, you're gonna alter the water and you're gonna expose.
Sure. We can do that. take it out, let's see, we'll take that, we'll tie that right into the wall, and then from the top of the wall, we'll come this way, come up the sideline, to enclose up beyond the limit of the grading. It's fine.
That's the only. So you want out along the right side,
Yeah.
all the way up to
No, just, beyond,
the 200-foot part?
to your breakout.
Well, to the, well, beyond, just beyond our grade line. Where we're
Yeah.
tying it in. Yeah, I get it. That works. You want a revised plan for that, or it's just good enough in the,
I think you can close it if that's the only thing
Perfect.
you're asking for, and just send in the revised in the meantime, in
Okay.
21 days. Otherwise, this is easy enough to condition.
okay,
All right.
that works.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, and I want to thank you for throwing out the impact avoidance.
Margaret did a nice job.
But next time, when it gets submitted,
This is the first time.
everybody's,
they
yeah,
did
this is
that.
the first,
She did, I
everybody's
think,
learning.
yeah, she thought the original letter served for that, but. So, we're good now.
So,
Yeah,
you still missed
okay.
the narrative. Quickly explain the little paragraph on the existing conditions, paragraph on proposed conditions, and then answer these questions and talk about mitigation, which in this case is just replace no filter.
Got it. We got it next time.
Thank you.
Motion to issue an order of conditions with the addition of some erosion control on the eastern boundary up to the limit of work. That's it, right?
Moving the 4-inch tree,
Moving the 4-inch tree.
if it doesn't work.
Replanted. Right.
200 caliber.
Yeah, half-inch caliber.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you. Have a good
Thanks for
night.
your time.
Who seconded?
Joyce.
Thank you.
Perfect, and we'll do that, revise that plan showing the erosion control, we'll send you a PDF, Brandon, and drop a couple copies off.
Make it 3.
3, got it.
Revised plans.
Yeah.
720, 14 Old Tavern Lane.
Motion to waive the reading?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Glenn Kowalski from EET Environmental, stepping up. Excuse me, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Commission. Mr. Faniff and I had an inspection today of the area, proposed work. The existing house, or the proposed house and septic and driveway is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. You had agreed on a ORAD, or an agreement on the vernal pool line, and the bordering vegetated wetland line, and the isolated vegetated wetland line in the last month and a half or so, recently. The applicant, I did locate an isolated wetland that hadn't been shown at some other, previously when this lot was permitted. That isolated wetland was isolated by a stone wall, possibly by the original farmer. Instead of, they normally make the line straight, and if it went along the wetland, at one point it came inland. He kept the wall straight, and then at some point in the, maybe in the 40s or 50s, it was, Brandon and I were talking that there was a program where USDA would finance making fields better, taking bigger boulders out of the fields than what the farm originally did. So there's a bunch of larger rocks that are piled along the original stone wall line, and it separates the bordering vegetated wetland from this small piece of isolated vegetated wetland, which is right here. So here's the boulder wall, flagging along it, and then the wetland would have gone along at some point and gone like this. This is quite extensive, 3 feet high. This width, we're proposing to restore by taking these boulders out and restoring that wetland. It's 1,000 square feet. In exchange, we're asking to keep the yard parallel with the property line. This would be the bump out. We are not going within 50 feet of this isolated wetland, which will now become a bordering vegetated wetland. We are proposing to, we'll end up creating a grade that's equal to the grade on either side of the wetland, east or west side of the wetland. Take this material out. I did show Mr. Fanoff today that this was, it's a succession field, gray stem dogwood, young saplings. There are 4 red maples that meet the tree criteria that you have. They just make it to 5. There's some at 5 and there's one at 5.5. And the rest of the stuff is smaller. The larger forest was, the farmer maintained the large forest around the vernal pool for whatever reason. So there we have some larger trees, but up here this was a field, or more recently a field. That maybe was never a field around the vernal pool. So lastly, we're proposing to, we already have this water line in. It runs like this. We're proposing to square it off and restore this wetland, remove all exotic invasive plants that we come across. I did show Mr. Fanoff today that we had some oriental bittersweet and multiflora rose in this area. At the road, there's some Japanese bamboo that might have came in when they loomed the original cul-de-sac. There's not much, luckily it's some just 3 or 4 small areas. Out in this area, there is some Japanese barberry. Luckily, it's sparse, the exotic invasives on this lot, but they're out there. So approximately 150 square feet is what I put in my final report on the avoidance and minimization. And we will, and as Mr. Fanoff, we won't say chastised, but we deserve it if we don't do it right. We did end up, we did supply this after the fact. It was the avoidance minimization. You won't get it after the fact again. But we answered all the questions on this, and we're proposing, this temporary drive, we're gonna use mid-size Mini and a dump truck, and just take the boulders off-site, and then plant this just like it was a wetland replication area. The density, I gave you the plant species and the number 8 red maples, and high bush blueberry, again, it's only 1,000 square feet, 3 northern arrowwood, and 3 common winterberry with 10 cinnamon fern. I gave you, Mr. Fanoff, the species, both the wetland species in here that we're gonna seed it out with, a sedge rush seed mix, and a conservation seed mix for this trail that comes in, and again, no trees. The only thing we have asked is, in this linear footage, we are putting in 4 2.5-inch caliper red maples that would replace the 4 that we're losing. We feel that having this being very narrow, we'd be more dense than the existing wetland that we have. We're already going to be denser in vegetation than the existing adjacent wetland. We're asking that 4 of the red maples be 2.5, because that's what we're losing. And we're asking that the other 4 be 1 inch, but we're putting in sizable winterberries, high bush blueberry, and also arrowwood. I think that's the only thing that we're asking for change is that red maple
Signs.
1 inch.
Your question about the signs.
And again, yes, at the very end, it was where the commission and what type of signs that the commission would like along the, if it's the entire boundary or if it's along this boundary where we're in the buffer zone, if the commission approves it. What type of signage? Normally, let you.
Let me give you the tour first.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So, they've already done clearing and
Excuse me a second. Bob, you want a drawing on that to look at? You're comfortable already?
Well, I looked at that drawing.
Okay.
That was the one I thought that the septic system didn't fit. The elevations don't work in the septic, some of the elevations don't seem to work in the septic system.
I won't argue with you. It is over 100 feet from the resource
Well,
area.
no,
That's the only
it's
thing I
not our issue,
would-
other than,
Okay.
not
I
our
will
issue.
bring that to the engineer's attention tomorrow morning, that it appears the Board of Health will be reviewing it, but
Yeah, I mean,
I'll definitely pass it on.
it's the elevation of the top of the tank in relation to
Yep.
the top of the tank to the top of the ground is roughly a foot, and you got the thickness of the concrete, plus you got an 8-inch manhole cover or whatever per shown, and just, it's gonna,
It seems like it's,
it's a little bit tight. Which just means you raise the grade in front of the house a little bit, I would think, to make it all work, but it's not our issue.
I will bring it to Mr. Baum, he's the PE on this one, out of Summit Engineering, he worked with me to get the.
As I say, it's not our issue, it's just,
But I'm noting it.
just a comment.
Okay. Septic elevation. Relative to tank and top of field. Yes. Okay.
View from the street. It's already been done in the non-jurisdictional areas. Just walking through it. All right, so they've got the backyard curves around. What they want to do is they want to expand it into this brushy area, which is going straight back. Okay? Part of that's in the buffer zone. So where I am, this pink stake right here is right on that green line on the plan, right there. So what I'm doing is I'm looking straight back, which would be down on the plan, looking down, looking that way. This is what it looks like. So it's thick brush. There you go. This is that isolated wetland area. Can you point to that on the plan, Glenn? Yeah, right there, that's the area.
Right there.
So I agree with Glenn. This looks like an old Soil Conservation Service job where they took boulders and large stones out that, you couldn't do otherwise without machinery. What they do is they pile it up at the old stone wall. The old stone wall just happens to be at the wetland, which is pretty common for the old farms. But what they ended up doing was separating this part of the wetland from the main part of the wetland on the other side of the wall. I asked them about this tree. What's gonna happen to that tree, Glenn?
It's staying. That would have been original. They piled the rocks around the tree. Clearly it's an old
So that tree's gonna stay.
white oak.
You can see there's a hump. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna pull the hump back, get the elevations so they connect again. And if you're worried that this area might drain or have vernal pool species, well, there's standing water on this side too.
I did hear peeping frogs last night.
If I could, the amount of rain, it will drain quickly. We just had that, we have 1 inch, I think on my gauge this morning, 1.25.
Maybe more tomorrow.
More tomorrow, but it'll quickly, but this is generally just high enough above it will drain quickly. We've seen it, just prior to this, there was about a half an inch of water. In heavy rains, it fills up. But as far as vernal pool
But-
issue, I don't see it holding water long enough to be a vernal pool, is what I'm
But
saying.
seeing this gave me satisfaction because when you go out there in the dry season, if you don't have the expertise, you could have walked right through this area. And seeing it flooded now
Right.
makes me feel good about it, the work that you did.
Thank you.
Okay. This is more what the buffer zone looks like. And then we're back to the beginning. So, my opinion on it is that if situation was tighter, you could tell the folks, it's not enough room. Keep things tighter. And even in this case, they're still gonna have room, but they are offering up quite a bit of mitigation, which I think is valuable. It offsets any permanent impact that they would have in that section of the buffer zone. So, I am personally in support of it, and I do not believe that it's gonna cause adverse impact if conditioned properly.
And there's no other thing that they're gonna do with it, they're gonna keep it lawn, they're not gonna put swimming pool or, you know.
What's on this plan is what we're proposing. There's no other proposals. They haven't proposed any pools. If there was a pool, it could be clearly in the, outside the 100-foot, but they've not expressed any of that to me. They have young kids. In fact, he'd be here tonight, and this doesn't weigh heavily clearly, but I mean, he's a police officer over in Millbury. He asked if he should take an hour off to come to the meeting. I felt that, that possibly it's just gonna be wetland people talking, so I didn't think he had to be here, but he hasn't expressed anything more than wanting a yard for the kids
And
to work in.
it's two-part mitigation. First part is they're gonna connect the isolated back to the rest of the BB, so it'll all be one wetland, which I think is a very good thing. It's the kind of project that you would want to encourage. And number two, he's proposing to eradicate all the invasive species throughout the entire property, which is no small task. So I commend him for doing that too. And I think between those two things and putting up the signs, that it offsets the adverse impact. There's enough mitigation, and I think complies with the bylaw.
Any comments?
If we didn't have this restoration to do, I wouldn't be in front of you, because I knew that it would take something to give mitigation back. And so let me just say that's why we're here.
Just curious, Glenn, how big is the wetlands? Is it a headwater for something?
It's the headwaters to the vernal pool, right? The top of this system, is if that's what you're asking, on this property becomes the headwater. The vernal pool, right north, say, of us, the pool is in here, and it's upland just on the other side. So this becomes the groundwater discharge point for the drainage away, and the drainage is down in this direction. So it is headwater, I'll say that. This is clearly very headwater again, and very dry in the summer. In the heart of the wetland, it's moisture, so this is the upper edge of the wetland on the west side. And it would have been, again, just a squared off thing, as we all just discussed with the farmer, and he just isolated that. Most likely, I've been here in the summer. It's so dry that it's part of the field. And in fact, Mr. Murphy, not picking on anybody else, but this originally was not called out as a wetland under the original King and King plan when this thing was permitted. I saw it, and I clearly obviously respect your agent, and I'm not gonna leave anything out. And so it came up where it didn't come up before, and I did find the hydric soils, but it wasn't vegetated heavily. It had a couple of silky dogwoods in it. But it's not as dense. Again, when he had it as a field, I don't think he probably had it cleared, and it just has come back. The natural wetland out here is much more densely populated with plants.
So this is the property right here in the aerial view. So they want to walk along, kind of in a rectangle over here. Wetlands over here. In fact, you can see the open water right here of the vernal pool. And that extends, like right now when it's really wet, that extends up into this area here. Not too deep. But the part that's going to hold water for 2 months is going to be up in this corner. And then from here, the direction, it's kind of surrounded by houses, but we got it over here, down here. There's another little open area right there.
Okay, no, I didn't know how big a wetlands
System it was.
system it was, and that's why the question I was asking.
Draining away. It is a discharge, there is a flow out of it. It's not, the whole wetland system itself isn't isolated.
When the last applicant that was here was proposing maybe transferring the trees that he was,
To move them in, 2.5, we can guarantee with the 2.5-inch caliper red maples and the root ball, these guys know how to take care of them. These are native, they're
Yep.
Acer rubrum, not hybrids. If we try to transport a 5-inch to a 5.5-inch, now we're dealing with, well, I don't actually have any contractors, but I'm sure they're out there to move, there are contractors that will move trees, for crying out loud. But I'm not,
Don't think it's the way to go.
he's braver than I am.
Yeah.
Because if I end up
It's your
losing
money.
them, then I'm back replacing them, and that's the problem. We're trying to get a linear, these root systems are gonna extend at this point, and trying to get something where you get enough root, 80%, whatever the volume might be.
Well,
Then you're-
he has a good point, because the standard for everybody has been 2.5 inch.
Yes.
So, I'll leave that to you.
He was more talking about he's gonna try to salvage the trees that are already on the property, though, instead of buying them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, I'm not recommending to the client to salvage 5-inch diameter. I mean,
Yeah,
It's the
those
end of
are
the
pretty big.
discussion.
Yeah.
Right, so then the question is why should you be able to have some 1-inch trees as opposed to 2.5 when everybody else has 2.5?
I wrote in here, the reason that I would have is that it's a linear restoration, and the density of 4 trees going at 64 feet long, going through here along with the bush species. This density, as with 2.5 inch and the bushes, will be even denser than what I have in the wetland that's native over here. So my only point to it is 8 red maples, 4 of them 1 inch, 4 of them 2.5 inch, with the other 3 species of bushes. I think we'll have it as at least dense or more dense than what's actually already here. And at some point, can you shade out or put too many red maples in and start shading out the trees that you're trying to grow as larger trees? That's a question, but I think I was going with the density of my existing wetland. I actually counted the bushes in the area, and I have these at, they're at 6 inch, 6 to 7 foot spacing.
The shrubs,
The shrubs and.
that's normal.
In fact, you asked for, I ended up going with what you were asking for. Let me revise that. You asked for the 8 red maples, if I recall, on an email. I think my originally density was not as thick as you wanted, and I went with 8.
Sometimes
Pretty
we've
clear
had
about
2
that.
shrubs for 1 tree too, so I would think that would
The
be
trees are
putting in
1 foot 1.
trees.
Well, we lost 4, and we were replacing 4 with 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
But
is
then
that,
the other, then there was 4
isn't
more
that the
that we're
standard?
adding in that
I'm
one.
trying to remember
Yeah,
that email.
yeah, but we've done 2 shrubs for 1 tree
Yeah.
before,
Oh,
and they're putting in
You know
extra
what it was?
shrubs.
What
You
I'm
know what it
saying
could
is
have
he's
been?
meeting
Yeah.
it, he's putting
Yeah.
more back
Yeah,
in, so
yeah.
it's the end of the talk.
You know what it could have been? He said that he's doing this per the replication guidelines. And the replication guidelines on trees is 10 to 15 feet on center. So maybe I was looking at it and said, well, maybe you need 8 due to the area you have. But if you're happy with 4, 2.5 inches, that's
Take it 4 down.
fine.
Well,
They're gonna grow and take quite a canopy.
And I was still gonna go in with the, with those additional smaller ones, because we weren't trying to short anybody. Again, the density, 4 large ones, 4 smaller ones, all the bushes. Monitoring, which to ensure that they're growing, the 2 growing seasons, we'd like to get in here and get it so we can get this growing season out and then next year's growing season. The full thing, and we're actually gonna take pictures of what we're removing for exotics to identify
And you
that.
should be aware, Glenn, that this Conservation Commission considers a full growing season 6 months. So if you don't plant them until, say, September,
Oh, yeah, forget
That's
about it.
not-
No, I'm talking about right within the next month. Well, as soon as the water table drops enough that when it's not in the pool, we're not gonna do this when it's wet like this, but we are, I live on the river, obviously, we're at the height right now. Everything's just discharging. But it'll drop, it should generally drop in the next month. If it's been like for the last 5 years, which I'm studying, you're gonna get 5 inch, or ½ inch, or 3/4 inch. You get this big 4 inch, and then all of a sudden it drops for a month and a half, and then it comes back a little bit. Is the pattern we've been seeing.
Any other questions?
don't
What's
forget
that?
to go to the public.
Anyone from the public?
And we still do monuments.
Right, we still have to talk about the monuments. I presume you want monumentation and signs. Question is how many and what spacing. The standard that Commission's been using is 1 every 50 feet, unless there's a jog. But in this one, I think
Straight line.
just a straight line back to right down to the back, which is basically the back property line. If you start up at the top where the buffer zone starts, yeah, every 50 feet, all the way down.
And
And I would like to see that on a plan.
I'll get them on the
so the
plan.
contractor sees it, because they don't necessarily read the orders and conditions.
To clear, this is clear to me, because whatever, but it is clear. So along the, do you put them along, even though this is outside?
No,
Would it be
you
here?
you would put them at the 100-foot mark,
Okay. got
right
it,
there,
got it.
and then
And then
where it
here.
encroaches, you would put it at the limit of work.
Yes, gotcha. Thank you again. I'll have the, add to the
And we'll
And
take
here's
pictures
one.
to verify their locations.
photos and on the plan.
Yeah.
Got it? And signage, it's a post, it's something like Mr.
It's a
San
4-inch galvanized with a cap.
Did you say 4-inch?
No, 2, sorry, 2, you're right. I'm thinking of perforated pipe, sorry.
2-inch galvanized, like Mr. San Germano.
Yeah,
Yeah, like-
pretty
yeah.
sound.
Yeah, not the green fence post, like the
Tomato stakes. or
the
whatever
kind
they
with
are.
the U that you put electric fence on, not that kind.
Okay.
It's gonna be something that you can't pull out by hand.
I'll send you a
We-
picture.
That's what thank you again.
We have a history.
Yes.
Well, we'll put it right on the plan. If we're gonna put the monuments on there, we'll just put the detail that you wanted to send us, and then the contract has the detail to it. I'll call tomorrow. Thank you,
Yeah, I'll
So-
send it by email to you.
thank you.
So the only amendments at this point is, only 4 2.5-inch caliper maples down in the restoration area.
And 4 1-inch. I was still gonna go with the 4 1-inch too.
All right, so,
That's as stated,
okay, so
as proposed.
Thank you.
2.5-inch shreds, and then 4 1-inch red maples, and the commission's okay with that. And signs every 50 feet along either the 100-foot buffer zone or the limit of work.
Thank you. I have it.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
All those in favor?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Your turn, Joyce.
Oh. Make a motion to issue an order of conditions with the addition of the signs along the buffer area and the restoring the wetland as proposed with the trees
Yeah. And I would mention invasive plant.
and removing the invasive plant species.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
735, 214 Worcester Providence Turnpike. You're back.
Thank you, Conservation Commission, again.
You're late.
This is a continuation of the hearing.
We're cutting this amount of time.
Well, not to go backwards, but on 14 Old Tavern, we will have a revised plan showing the placard locations.
Correct.
Okay, all right, we're good, move on.
We have that in our notes. We'll make sure to have that in the next couple of days. The 214 Providence with a medical facility at a former home. We've gone through everything, and if I could say, you are waiting for the peer review stormwater, and Graves Engineering completed it, and they're all set with the stormwater. There was some question about the retaining wall in the height. It's been dropped down to just under 4 feet. It went by your building inspector, if I can, Mr. John Couture. Couture. He said he's all set with it. We're using a 4-foot, the planning board wants something textured that looks like rock, so it's not a standard just block, concrete block. It has the stone look to the front of it. That will be on all sides, and again, just under 4 feet. And we sent in the engineer specs still for that, even at 4 feet. The company that makes them, that supplies them to L&O Concrete, Esposito's out of Oxford. So they're 4 feet by 2 by 2, and that's what we're gonna use as a retaining wall here and here. It's very shallow on this end, and again, almost 4 at that, but again, Mr. Ranka submitted a letter in reference to his conversation with your Mr. Couture. And he said it was fine after reviewing it. So this is a revised plan with a slightly lower wall, and that's the only thing that changed.
And
The two issues you had, I believe.
Yeah, well, on the wall, just for clarification,
Yes, sir.
all we really cared was what it was gonna be made out of. I mean, so a wall to be determined, that means it could be a creosote timber wall or a precast concrete. All we were looking for is a precast concrete wall or a modular wall or something like this. We don't particularly, it's not our bailiwick as to how it's built or anything else, just as long as the material that it's built with is friendly to the environment. And that's our concern on the walls, is just, it ends at that, really.
We had heard that design by others was, it could be a problem, because, again, it could be anything.
It has been in the
So we went through
past.
structural engineers, engineers for concrete companies, Chase engineer. We wanted to make sure that when we came back to you, that, and also to your building inspector, that it would be suitable to you, and clearly it's not creosote, so it's concrete, and it does stand up to the test of your building
Yeah.
inspector, and it's not an excessively high wall at all, so. And we did not, and there was some even discussion that it was going to extend into the 100-foot riverfront area, and I said that wouldn't happen, so we made sure to keep it outside that first 100 feet as the regulation on 1058 talks about for redevelopment. We kept under 10, well under 10% of alteration of the riverfront area, kept out of the first 100 feet. I think we hashed that through the last time, I thought it would work. And we are, again, still working too on that restoration, and that's all I'll say. It's the other projects. But we'll be right back now, because we finally did get the brush removed over there, so we'll be back on that. Good, so that's
We
great. I
were
had the
we were
photos from
talking,
yesterday, so
about that earlier.
well, we're ready to come, now we can count the trees finally, the snow's out of there, the stuff is on, but that's another part of the restoration. In fact, we might have this project, so we're gonna tie 4 properties together on the restoration. Thank you.
And I have a folder with some of the history for you, and I forgot it tonight, but
If Wanda ever gets it, I do come here to.
okay, I'll drop it off for Wanda, because I
Thank
think
you.
it would be very beneficial to know the history of the area.
100%, thank you.
Anyone from the public have any questions on this property? Anyone else?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's been a pleasure with these 2 projects, thank you again.
Motion to issue an order of conditions.
Plan over to Wanda and with
There was
the
nothing
companies.
special, right?
I don't think so.
Well, there's special conditions for restoration work.
Yeah.
Right, the restoration was over here.
Yeah.
So that's a ancient fill too, so.
Which is removal filled, that filled in a wetland, they're gonna take it back out and fix it up.
Reconnect the wetland, another reconnection of wetlands.
Okay, motion to issue an order of conditions with the special condition to reconnect the wetland on the southwest corner of the property.
Second?
Is that good enough, Brandon?
Yep.
Okay.
All,
Go ahead.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What's the final revision date on that?
It is, remove grading, 12, well, no, that wouldn't be it, 17/5, 3/14/17,
3/14/17.
14/17.
Does Wanda have hard copies of that?
Yes.
3/14/17?
Yes. About a week and a half ago, I brought those over. Because I just got the McGrath ones to you. I brought two right over here, Wanda.
This is the
Right here.
original. This is the original.
I think that's the only one in there.
That's the original. This one's all done.
I'll tell you what,
That's probably them.
Here it is.
Yeah.
you got 2 of them?
Yeah, I brought 2.
That's
You
one.
have- That's what's on the floor.
No. No, don't think so.
This is
Just had
yours.
one. Yep.
I know I had brought 2, but I have there's no issue.
No.
Oh,
Mine
no.
only goes to
That's the one I
1.5.
gave to you to give to him earlier.
No, that was
That
McGrath.
was McGrath's, okay.
So you have 2 of that.
No,
You only have 1.
this is one. copy one. I could have sworn it's in there.
We need at least one more.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's right here?
Yeah, there you go. I know I had brought two over because
Okay, this needs to be signed.
This one only goes to 12/28/17.
my client has no problem with giving you another one of these. I will make another one. It's not a deal, and here's a
Is that the whole
complete,
thing right
Yeah,
there,
Yes.
but we
Glenn?
need two.
you do have.
That's the
You'll
whole thing.
Sign
find,
it.
yes, it is.
And that's the one we need.
I'm going to say with that, thank you again.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks again.
750, 28 Wheelock Road.
Make a motion to continue that to April 19th at 7:05.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
And we get 10 minutes here. So we're tabling all the minutes? That's right, right?
Yep.
So I didn't see them, I looked. Erosion control, page 2.
Erosion control, page 2.
The,
New
Oh, it's
change.
gonna
The-
take you a lot longer to go through that.
Okay, we'll hold off on that.
Why don't we sign all these?
yeah,
Okay.
So this one needs a plan.
Is the order of conditions for Lake Singletary watershed in there too, Wanda, that we can
Yeah.
sign?
It's
Yeah,
a
that's here
certificate
too.
of compliance that you approved for the last meeting, for the Lake Cemetery Association. There was some
Okay, so we got
dates that were wrong,
one.
Okay.
so when Wanda always sends me everything to have me look at it, I had to make some changes to get it up to date. And the changes that needed to be made were on the signature page, so I told her she needs to rip up that one and send a new one for signature.
We don't need to vote on it because we already did, right?
Right, you just need to re-sign.
Yeah, I have that here.
Is this the right one here?
No, plans are gonna come in, you have to sign them at the next meeting. Because that's the one he's gonna send, come back with a set of plans. Same with this one.
I thought he just gave us another set of plans.
no, these are the ones
No.
previous to
Okay.
that.
Yeah, those are the wrong ones. All these
Mike, yours.
need plans. There's that one. We also have the National Grid, the last one they were looking for, I have all the paperwork here for it that they sent me. And is that one okay to sign too, the old one, the 3030666 on National Grid, that last one?
No, 60, well, no, this
Yeah.
is the one that Hannah Raditz
Yeah,
was asking about.
yeah.
She hasn't even submitted the certificate of compliance yet.
That's that one for you.
So don't worry about that one. That one's
Thought she
coming.
sent me, oh, okay.
She needed you to.
There's a
remember-
partial one, we need a full one on that,
She's looking for a full now,
yeah,
okay? It's been 7 years since you get the partial, and you want to close it out.
yeah.
So, what she asked for is a copy of the original notice of intent and order of conditions, which you sent to
Which I
her.
sent to her.
Which you sent to her very recently. So now she's gonna get the plans from Heritage Design Group, because I guess there's no plan left. And then they're gonna do their as-built, because this is a commercial property, and it's from a long time ago, so, and they have no issues with it, so I think it's appropriate.
Okay, the other one I have is 9 Silver Ledge. He's looking for an extended order of conditions. This is his, I believe, his first one.
9 Civil Edge,
Yeah, Silver Ledge, Matt Demetis.
I remember that
Yeah.
one, down.
The mushrooms.
Silver Down on the left.
The
With
mushrooms.
the mushrooms, the guy with the
Yeah.
mushrooms, okay. So that's something I'm gonna have to
So-
look at.
Okay, you wanna look at that before we do anything with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
also,
that's on hold.
did they send in a letter?
He's looking for an
Okay.
extension on the,
Yeah, extension, 'cause
Oh,
he's
I
not
thought you
ready-
said a COC, I'm
No.
sorry.
No, extension. He's just looking for an extension.
Oh, well, you know what,
Have you
before
been
you
here?
before you do an inspection, extension, you should do an inspection to make sure that so far they're in compliance. So I should probably wait a couple more
You
weeks.
gonna do that?
Now that I know, yes.
Yeah, you did have
Okay, so
OC
that one's
here
waiting,
instead.
that one's waiting, so I'm doing those. All right, the other thing we received was, the yearly vegetation control program from the Worcester Providence Railroad Company. I have that paperwork here. I have both files here. If you wanna wait on that and check it out after, we can do that. It's gonna take a few minutes.
If you want to, there's really nothing to,
There, I know.
We have no
they
control over it.
supersede
no
us,
Yeah.
control over it.
We have no control over it, but it's here.
All they have to do
Everybody else will get it.
is notify us.
I did send an email with that, because Joyce doesn't get them, so I've been trying to make copies for her. That's kind of thick, so, but we can look at that after. That's the other one. And then the other thing we need to do is,
Bob, Mr. Teft has a question?
In reading that spray thing, they do reference in there that in some cases, there's no spray areas. Are there
Yes.
any no spray areas that within, for them? And are they properly marked? I guess, does that apply and is it marked?
There's not very much railroad that goes through Sutton for the PNW, they go over the Blackstone River, up off of, was it Depot Street?
Depot Street, yeah.
I've walked that whole section last year. Remember when we had the issue with them redoing the bridge and some potential unauthorized cutting? I went down there and walked the whole thing, and yes, they do have they have it marked out in blue. Once you get too close to the river, or too close to a wetland, they have no touch zones. Not only, they have it spray painted right on the tracks. So they're good, yes.
Right, I didn't know if it applied to us and if it did, whether it was done, and apparently it is.
We talked about that last fall.
It's not very far. From what I remember, they only have to be 10 feet away.
PV crossing update?
Mr. Doherty told me that they planned on installing the monument in the big detention basin at some point next week, but they need for it to dry out first.
Which isn't gonna happen tomorrow.
Okay. Well, we stay on that one because we being asked quite a bit on that one.
Yes, we are.
Subcommittee review, we've set a date for that, I believe.
I cannot make it on the 11th.
We're resetting a date for that.
I cannot make it the 11th to the 12th. I have meetings both nights.
I threw a date out, you guys can try now.
And what date is that?
The 11th, the one that didn't work.
That one does not work.
Yeah.
Do you have any
So,
alternatives?
no, so now you guys can try.
What's that for?
Subcommittee review.
Do I need to move
No, it'd be Brandon, Dan, and I, so it's not a public.
The 13th works. The 17th works. We're here on the 19th, and the 20th works. So the 13th, 17th, 18th, 20th.
Work?
that off-site?
I don't have things in front of me, but I'll double check.
Yep.
Email you guys tomorrow.
You two decide, I'm all set with any of them,
Okay.
having the heavy schedule that I do.
Are we thinking after work hours, right?
Yep.
Kinda.
Yeah, like 6 o'clock, like that.
All right. Look at that, 8:05, back on time here, 140 Manchog Road. And I gotta read that one in.
Good,
How are
you?
you?
Good.
Just have to read it in.
Sure.
That's Ramson. Wrong address. It is Mark and Lauren La Rochelle, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
You've
Wrong
got-
address.
You've got 17 and a half Ramsland at the top.
I can change it.
No, wait a minute, no, I don't have to change it. I might have put the wrong number in there.
140 Manchog Road. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 5th, 2017 at 8:05 at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxbridge Road, Sutton. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Mark and Lauren Baruchel of Sutton. The project consists of removing 2 dead trees along the lakeside, installation of an aluminum temporary dock with wash beach sand for a small beach area on map 42, parcel 082 on 140 Manchog Road, Sutton. Welcome.
There may be an issue with the number, Wanda, because Marge Duff was telling me last night she's 140, and she still owns the majority of everything.
Yeah.
And so he just bought a small piece evidently, so there probably should be a different number, or a 140A or something like that.
We closed late February, so it might just be
Yeah.
a matter of timing.
So it was March 1st, so I'll have to check with Nick on that.
Well, this shows that it was 153 Manchog Road. That's Leonard and Marge Duff.
That's her
Yeah,
residence.
that-
Her residence,
her
right?
residence.
Okay.
So she owns across the street on the water. It's a very thin strip.
It has been split. It was split a while back.
Okay, well,
So I'll just
we'll
have to
know if
check
it's
with Nick
updated
to
with
see-
downstairs, right?
Yeah, we'll have to see about that address change.
So we purchased the property for recreational use, and we are hoping to get the kids in the water this summer. 2 of the trees that are on this thin strip look like one of them looks relatively unstable the way it's leaning. It had broken halfway at some point before we had moved into the area. So that tree, and there's one beside it that has lost a lot of the bark on it. Both those trees I'd like to just remove, primarily because I'm hoping my kids will be in the water now that we purchased this, and for their safety reasons, those I'd like to get rid of. The follow-up to that, after those were gone, I have since decided that the beach sand we'd prefer not to do that now. My wife and I discussed trying to get the kids further away from the road. It's 20 feet deep. It's not really enough room for an 8 and 10-year-old to be playing. So I'm asking in lieu of that to put a slightly larger than conforming dock in. A couple of things in terms of length. The 30-foot length, and I have some printouts, would leave me with, I believe it's 32 inches of water. We have a boat that's kept in Sturbridge at the moment at my parents' house, and it has a 29-inch draft to it. So it would be difficult to park that there. And in addition to that, there is just a need for additional square footage with my children, just to be able to get them further away from the road, still have seating area. This would all be a temporary dock. I have a Hewitt brochure here, but there's a lot of aluminum dock manufacturers out there that I'd get a price for. This is an example of what I had done. I used a rotary laser at the high water mark to get those water depths. Those are in blue. And a pair of waders. And so I'm hoping to get further out. I'm asking for 50 feet. And I'm asking for roughly 400 square feet. The intent is to move this in the off season, and then put it back out when the water level starts to rise.
Brandon, do you have any pictures of this to show, or?
Mr. LaRochelle
Yep.
took some pictures, which I only had in paper form. Why don't you hand them out? I've seen them already. I don't have them put up on the screen, unfortunately. The trees themselves, they're right on the water, so they automatically have high wildlife habitat value. The question is, they're unsafe. There's no structures there, so currently, unless they're leaning towards the road, there's gonna be a danger to the passers-by driving, then my view is that they're high value. Even the dead ones on the lake, on the ponds, are highly valuable wildlife trees. As far as the dock, he's gonna need a variance. I think I'll leave that up to you, but what I'll say in general is that docks are not a right, they're a privilege, and I know that this commission tries to be as friendly as possible, but this is a brand new construction. It's not like a dock where there's already a lawn and a retaining wall.
Any comments from the board?
Just fact-finding, I guess, questions. Why did you locate the dock at this particular location? If I understand the parcel of land correctly, further down, it's a wider piece of land than it is where you proposed it. I don't know. Is the water better further down?
No, it would be shallower, so in the winter, you can kind of see the contour of the new shoreline, the low water shoreline. So there's a lot more land available there. I chose that spot mostly because it's closest to the end of the driveway, so we're not walking the street. It's not a great spot on the road. It's a sharp corner. People get a nice straightaway to speed up before they hit that corner. So I really just want my kids to cross the street. That particular area right there already is open somewhat, and it's far enough away from the neighbor's new home, so.
So he's got it on the
Yep,
TV there.
yep.
So
So the driveway, the end of my driveway is right here. So if you can measure from this pin 65 feet, it's right about here.
and I'm more concerned about, you're looking for a variance on the dock.
Yep.
And I'm trying to help you out the best I can here. So one of the questions is there any place on that whole frontage that you wouldn't need a variance for the dock in Brennan's?
There is a missing component to the application, which is the impact avoidance and minimization statement. And the filling out of that statement would help to answer a lot of those questions to begin with. We don't have at this point. And I understand this is you're doing this on your own,
Yeah.
so you might not necessarily be aware of this particular requirement.
Yep.
But there's a sheet of paper that asks a number of questions regarding the kind of thing that Steph is questioning you on right now.
Sure.
So I think that you can ask the question, but having him fill out the form would help quite a bit along those lines.
Also, we usually require an arborist statement about trees, and if you cut them, you have to replace them. So that's another
My
thing.
argument on that, though, is that they're highly valuable wildlife trees because they're right on the water. Unless they're leaning over the road and causing imminent danger, then even an arborist letter would be moot. Because in a situation where there's no imminent danger to life and or property, then a dead tree is a good tree.
There's eagles down there, and they like to perch on dead things.
Give my bearings, is this the property with the metal gate on the road? Or
It's
the one with the fire pit, or is that, am I not thinking of the
No,
right
yeah.
one?
That's the original so that's the main chunk of 140 Mantrack. This piece is, so that.
Closer
this
to
is all
Bronson's.
140
Oh, okay.
Mantrack. So this is just the piece that I've purchased
Okay,
here.
so that's why,
Yeah, it's split, right about here where this indentation is.
okay.
What you hand out represent the entire piece that you purchased, or?
Exactly, yep,
So it's from here to here?
yep.
The reason you won't see it on the maps yet for downstairs is because it was purchased March 1st, and it will not be on them until next January.
So it'll still be the old
Yeah,
information.
it'll still be the old maps and the old numbers. That's why there's no 140 is still listed on there. I'll check with Nick, he may have another number for it already, but it's okay for us to do it this way.
There's also the question of, regardless of being a temporary dock, the commission has been approving docks through RDAs, but those have been situations where there's pre-existing disturbance. And this is gonna be in a brand-new area that's gonna require a path going down. You're gonna have to do some clearing along, most likely along the bank of the pond. So whether or not you feel comfortable approving it as an RDA as opposed to an NOI is something to take into consideration as well.
And where would you store the dock when you take it out?
I would probably leave one section. It seems to be what a lot of people do there, and just stack up the remaining pieces. Keep it out of the water and the ice. In terms of additional clearing necessary, the pieces that I've looked at are 5 feet wide. As I said, my intent is not to have my kids on the roadside, but out on the dock. So I really don't need a lot of playground area, if you will, for them to be clearing. It's really just to get access 5 foot out of the 200 and some odd feet that I've purchased.
Any comments, Dan?
Oh, I've got a problem with the 50-foot of dock, just, we've told everybody else 30 feet, if I remember, and I hear you.
Yep, and I understand.
And it was like that when you bought it
Yep.
in March, and I got a problem with that.
Yep, understood.
Yep.
I figured I'd,
You can only ask.
that's it.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because otherwise you're not being fair to everybody else, and you'd open Pandora's box.
That already kind of opened when people heard about the length. Bob, any other comments? The audience, does anyone in the audience have any comments? Full audience tonight. And they don't, see?
Wait a minute.
All right.
I think it would be appropriate to have Mr. La Rochelle fill out the impact avoidance and minimization statement, come back in a couple of weeks, and talk about it again.
Could we give him some info on that, or
Yeah, well,
just where he's not working with an engineer?
What I would like to do is, you have an email address?
Yeah.
I presume? I can get your email address, and I will send you the paperwork in a Word document, so you don't have to retype it all.
Yeah, sure.
All you have to do is answer the questions, give a narrative, and, yeah, write it down, and then we can come back in a couple of weeks.
Okay,
Have a little more informed discussion.
sure.
Okay.
So you would like to continue for 2 weeks from tonight? Would that work for you? Give you enough time?
Yep.
Wanda, what would that be, the 19th?
April 19th at 7:20.
You're one of the early ones.
Motion to continue to April 19th at 7:20.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck. And 820, 154 Town Farm Road. That's a new one.
Yes and no.
Just have to read that one in.
Thank you.
154 Town Farm Road. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 5th, 2017 at 8:20 PM at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxford Road, Sutton. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Wireless Edge Towers LLC, New Rochelle, New York. The project consists of constructing a 150-foot cell tower, multi-carrier, electronic equipment, utilities, chain link fence, including access driveway and utilities to the facility on map 34, parcel 8, on 154 Town Farm Road, Sutton, Massachusetts. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Ed Parry, it's P-A-R-E. I'm an attorney at Brown Rudnick. I represent Wireless Edge. With me is
Arthur Allen from Ecotech.
So, a few months ago, we were in before the zoning board and then the planning board as part of the project to get approval for the 150-foot tower towards the back portion of the site, which actually the town owns. I'll have Art go through and describe some of the issues that are before you today, but we filed a request for determination of applicability. We did locate the fence compound and the site so that we were outside of the wetlands buffer area. But this is more of an engineering thing, and I'll let Art go. We also have some copies of our impact statement.
I got it.
Good evening again, Arthur Allen from Ecotech. I was brought in after the RDA was filed to check and refresh the wetland flags and to address the impact avoidance minimization mitigation statement, which I've presented to you tonight. You're also looking at the latest version of the revised plan. This is not the plan that was filed with the RDA. It's essentially the same with the exception of upgrading an additional section of the proposed access cart path or proposed/existing access cart path, and also protecting a stormwater drainage swale that runs along this first part of the cart path. So essentially, the site property that the town owns where the tower is supposed to go is outlined in orange, coming in from Town Farm Road here, with the strip going back to the larger part of the property. It's part of the Whittier Farm, I guess. Whittier Farm, right? Yeah, up there, and the farm owner has requested that we actually go in over the existing cart path, which is why this existing proposed cart path I've highlighted in green, why it's outside of the property until you get back to this the box where it opens up. So the original plan showed upgrading the driveway or existing car path starting back closer to the box where it opens up. But once I went out there to look at the site again, I noticed both that this first part of the cart path was pretty muddy and soft, and also, if I can zoom in here with the next plan sheet, I noticed that on the part going in from the farmhouse, adjacent to the farmhouse, and right out beside the barn, the farmer, I guess some time ago, had created, he kind of cut that cart path in right here, cut it into the grade, and then created a spot where water kind of sheets and bleeds off of the cornfield, and then he's got it in a swale that runs along the north side of the cart path, then crosses in an existing corrugated metal pipe, and then flows down through the paddocks, eventually draining into a wetland down at the bottom of the hill. So, understanding that does contribute to a wetland, I both had them. Again, the changes on this plan are both upgrading this part of the roadway to prevent us to show a stable base, basically, for their cart path for the construction purposes and for their occasional visits back to the tower, and then I had them show a towed-in silt fence between the cart path and the existing stormwater swale on the north side, and then a horseshoe or silt fence around the culvert outlet on the south side. So protecting that stormwater swale during construction and upgrading this first part of the road. So those are the changes to the plan. And then if we zoom in on the back part, the west end of the site where the tower is proposed to go. So you can see the existing tree line here, wetlands out in the woods here, including a certified vernal pool up at the kind of the top of the wetland. It's actually an old farm pond. It's bermed off from the wetland by an earthen dike here, but it's all vegetated now. I'm sure there's plenty of critters in there. But I delineated those wetlands last year, and then once you come out of the tree line, 100-foot buffer is just outside of the tree line, and they've located the compound now out in the open field outside of the tree line, and that consequently or subsequently to my looking at the site, they actually wanted to put the compound back against the property line back in here. As soon as I delineated and looked at it, I said, no way, get it, out in the open field. Plus this brings it closer to the top of the hill. I mean, I think it's probably might be a better signal location anyway.
More height.
Yeah. And so that would be, in terms of the impact avoidance, obviously all the work is outside of the wetland buffer zone. Plus the fact that, that the main issue, the main impact avoidance issue was, initially in the design, by just telling them to, not only they move it outside of the wetland and they moved it completely outside of the buffer. So I'm certainly fully supportive of that, and I think it shows, our efforts to minimize impacts. Plus, we've shown a silt fence around the limit of work out here too. The silt fence is just outside of the buffer, so that's our limit of work, keeping, again, everything outside of the buffer. But they are, again, stabilizing. They'll put in a stabilized roadway to get back there. The compound itself will be finished with crushed stone, so that'll be all non-erosive, permeable surface once they're done, constructing the compound and the tower. Excess spoils associated with the with excavations for the tower base and the pads, those will all be taken off-site. What isn't used to just regrade the site, but we're not proposing any changes in grades in the compound location or along the roadway. Just remove and replace material in the roadway, and the same, for the compound itself. So that's the project in a nutshell. I haven't talked to Brennan since he's been out there, so I guess probably at some point we're going to need some feedback from him. And unless there's any questions from me, I'll turn it back to you.
I concur with the wetland delineation, and from everything I've reviewed, this project has been done and presented to the letter, exactly like I'd like to see it done. Impact avoidance and minimization statement is very good. Stakeout on the site. No, I want.
And this came before us.
It's in an open area.
Hey,
Is it no red before?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
It's,
A while back, right?
outside of the AWRA. They're taking measures to protect the swale. So I think that this is, I recommend approval.
Wayne?
Any Bob, Joyce, Tim?
Just a small thing, that I'd like to see the erosion control fence at least 5 feet off the grade change. It allows room for the contractor to make the grade change, grade it, and do everything else without disturbing the erosion control. I'm looking at drawing A1,
A1?
you know.
Oh yeah, I see they have a grade line pretty close to that silt fence. Yeah, it looks like maybe 2 or 3 feet off the silt fence.
Yeah, it just, be nice if you had room to work, that's all, without destroying the silt fence or the erosion control now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they could either pull that grade fence that grade back a bit, or move the silt fence, one or the other?
I don't see any problem if you could move the silt fence 2 or 3 feet beyond, do you?
Yeah, that's good, yeah, because you don't want your erosion control right at the bottom of the slope. You want it off a little bit so that any sediment coming down can settle out before hitting it first. It's less likely to fall down.
We can't use a silt fence as a retaining wall? We've all seen that before.
I saw some today like that.
Sure.
So you suggest we move to the east, is that the
Silt fence.
The silt fence.
To.
The west.
Slightly
The west.
to the west,
Slightly
away
to the
from the work, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
or
to
the,
to the west, to the
they
west.
could adjust the grading too, I mean, it's. kind
Either
of-
way, it's just
The
separation.
object is when you put up the erosion controls, rule of thumb is keep it 5 feet off the bottom of the grading. So you give the sediment a little bit of time to slow down before it hits.
I mean, that's probably a good condition in this case, if we want to, if you're inclined to issue a negative determination with conditions, that would be certainly be a good one.
Well,
That's our
is
job.
it still outside of the BZ if you move it another few feet? Because the box you would check off, in this case, would be that all work is outside of resource areas and therefore doesn't need a permit. They don't give you an option for conditions. They only give you options for conditions if you're in the buffer zone, but it's not going to cause impact requiring notice of intent. I can put it in an addendum page if you have no objections.
Yeah, either way. I mean, it looks like, yeah, I mean, we could probably still say just outside of the buffer. I mean, at one point, it's within a couple feet of the buffer. Either way.
Anyone in the audience have any comments? Yes, Mr. Whittier.
Wayne Whittier. I'm here on behalf of Whittier Farms. First of all, over 7 years ago, we signed with the town to do this project. We have a contract or a piece of paper for easement with wireless edge. Happy to do that. It's gonna help both of us. Couple of things that I wanted to come to the meeting tonight. The driveway, somebody was there tonight, got stuck. I'm guessing you
Yes,
had your
sir.
shoes, Brandon, it was you. Okay?
So,
You're the second one this week to get towed out of there.
yes, sir.
I would request that the driveway get done first.
That's what they intend to do.
They'd have to get back there.
And
The second and third thing I wanted to bring up at public meeting is Wireless Edge is supposed to put a gate there. The location to be determined. I'd like to get Wireless Edge to determine that with me prior to construction. The last thing, I do have 2 families living in our house. We're gonna share the driveway. Everybody knows that. And the key word there is share it. There's 4 people and 4 dogs. I don't want any of them to get run over. And a little over a week ago, when somebody was there, the rumor I heard was they went through the driveway at about 20 miles an hour. Part of the public record, Whittier Farms wants this to happen. We can benefit as good as anyone from cell phone service. But I do want some conversation as construction comes forward so that we can minimize the runoff, minimize the erosion. And I'd like to get the easement staked before that happens.
Just so you know, having gone out there a week or so ago, it wasn't me that did 20 miles an hour, by the way.
He's fast.
I'm very careful. But because I went out there and saw the condition of the roadway, I'm the one who's responsible for having them upgrade the full length of the roadway, because I knew there was no way they could put equipment over that
John Arthur and I had talked about that earlier.
without upgrading. They
From
were
the
only,
street in.
yeah, they were only talking about upgrading the back portion. I mean, I know they're trying to cut costs and things, but it was my strong
The
urge.
conversation over the phone was from the street in.
And that didn't get on the plans, but it's on the plans now. And they'll protect that culvert, too, they'll play over it.
Yes, Brandon.
My turn. Mr. Lydia, first I want to say I met your son John, and he's a good man. I was glad to meet him. Very glad to meet him.
Is he the one sitting on the tow bill?
Knock, knock, knock.
Yeah, you have some great dogs. I like the one that likes to play fetch, because I had a little bit of time to play fetch. I apologize for running up your gravel drive there, and any hay that I might have damaged.
Got a lot of rain earlier in the week.
And if I had been going 20 miles an hour, I might not have gotten stuck. But, yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Now it's out.
And you're on TV.
And I enthusiastically recommend approval.
And I will share those concerns with Wireless Edge and John Arthur personally tomorrow and make sure that he reaches out to you and we get things moving in
Thank you
the
very
right
much.
direction, absolutely.
All good points. Anybody else?
This would be a negative determination.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to issue a negative determination.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Only I could get stuck at the top of the hill.
Oh, no, point in time. Who'd have thought, huh?
But it just goes to show you.
Water doesn't always run downhill.
I rest my case.
You could probably get stuck at the top of the hill in many places in Sutton.
He gets stuck in Sutton. Now he's one of us, right? 8:35 PM.
Now it's 17 and a half rooms one.
Hey, I'm waiting for the file.
You've done well tonight. Think how much better you'll do next week.
The Sutton Conservation, 17 and a half Ramshorn Road. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 5th, 2017 at 8:35 PM, Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxford Road, Sutton. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Glenn and Lauren Randall, Westboro, Mass. The project consists of removal of a diseased maple tree on property line, installation of an aluminum removable dock on map 14, parcel 60, on 17.5 Ramshorn Road, Sutton. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very well.
So we have a tree that's on the property line, and our neighbors next door at 17 are going to be doing some work on their property and taking down some trees. We got concerned about our tree, thinking what can we do to save it so that during the work right next door, the tree can remain living. We thought maybe if we pruned it or something like that. So we had an arborist come in, and he determined that the tree was actually not salvageable, that it should come down because there's quite a bit of damage in the structure of the tree. So we had some pictures.
I have some pictures too that might help too, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so.
You're doing very well.
Oh, thank you. So, much to our regret, the tree needs to come down.
Just a moment.
It's right on the property line. I guess because of the proximity to the water, we need permission to remove it.
Mhm. You need to replace it.
Right. So it's this tree here, and the property line is right here, and they're taking this tree plus some other trees down on their property. I'm sorry. Did you say good luck?
I said you're not.
Oh, okay.
If anything, I think that the boathouse on 17 is more in danger than your house.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. It could go either way. When you look at it from the water looking up, it's sort of got a tilt to it.
Yeah, it goes one way and then
Yep.
it turns,
Yeah.
turns the other towards, yeah, it's
Mhm.
kind of weird. There we go.
There, yeah.
I think I might have one, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, okay, so you've got the good.
No, wrong one, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it could fall, it's hard, I don't really know what direction this would fall. but
Yeah, and there's some
we were hoping
a
actually
few
that it
dead
was not gonna
limbs
fall.
up there.
Well, I think the bottom line is that It's definitely in very close proximity to structures, and if the arborist said that it's in imminent danger, which they did,
Mhm.
then it's obviously legitimate. What the commission requires part of the policy is to replant.
Yeah.
In kind, either in the same location or closer to the water.
So to replant, would it need to be a tree that would grow to that same height, or could we do something smaller, like more shrub, blueberry bushes,
That's the
rhododendrons?
question a lot of people ask.
Mm.
I'll leave it to the commission.
If we move it downhill and put a tree there, it'll be a giant tree like this next to the boathouse. Until
50 years from now.
But none of us will be
Yeah.
around.
we'll be dead.
None of us will be around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
none of us will be around.
Nonetheless,
2.5-inch caliper is what we usually ask to replace it
So
with.
a 2.5-inch caliper.
Yeah.
Diameter.
That-
Oh, so the tree that goes in the ground is that wide? Okay,
It won't be that big.
5 feet off the ground, give or take.
None of us
Okay.
will see it that big.
okay. So that means not something like a shrub, or, you mean it has to be a tree?
It's
Well,
typically a tree.
This is the conversation that you keep on circling around. And my opinion is, if you're gonna allow shrubs, situation where you wanna put the shrubs down by the water to create a buffer strip, and put several shrubs, and that, it depends on the size of the tree that you're losing too. In this case, just about every property in Ransdale Pond has a retaining wall.
Yeah, we do.
And they have a pretty small amount of lawn there to begin with, so I don't see how it's gonna be any real big benefit to plant shrubs as opposed to a 2.5-inch caliper tree next to the stump that, it's gonna be there.
I mean, I don't mind putting a tree in.
no.
I'm just wondering what our options were. We wanted to make sure we
We
did
thought if we had no
everything.
tree there, we could plant other things, but if it has to be a tree, it's,
Yeah,
we
that's
have no
fine.
objection.
I think the tree's most appropriate here.
Okay, I don't mind a
Yep.
tree.
So do you have a list of appropriate trees, or we can?
Any native tree, can't be an ornamental tree, invasive tree, the nursery will know. Nursery is not allowed to sell invasive trees. But they do sell ornamental trees, like, example, some kind of like Japanese
Mountain ash.
cherry. Yeah, you can't do that. It has to be a native tree, like an oak tree, or a maple tree, or an ash tree, or
What about an
a
apple?
hickory tree.
Apple tree.
No, that's not
No.
native, no,
Okay. They aren't?
no.
Johnny Appleseed didn't come through here?
Well, thanks for telling us.
The Indians didn't have them before Johnny Appleseed, no.
Okay.
So it'd be non-fruit bearing tree. It's-
Okay. All right, okay, that makes sense.
Some of the squirrels would like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we do have other, like.
Shagback
hickories.
hickory, yeah.
Yep, yeah, we have those, yeah. Okay.
Even,
Chestnut?
even the,
Chestnut, no. We
Yeah.
won't see it that big.
We haven't seen any, but we can maybe find one.
yeah, something along
All right.
those lines.
Yeah, okay.
So what we can do is, you can, with the letter from the arborist, you can issue as a negative RDA with the condition that they plant a 2.5-inch tree in his place.
Actually, couldn't be a chestnut because the native ones got killed in the 1930s, so
Oh.
the chestnut trees that
There's a
are
living now.
cultivars and,
Yeah, they're cultivars, yeah.
Yeah,
Horse
so that-
chestnut.
yeah, horse chestnut would be native.
It would be
Okay.
native. Now, they're really pretty in the spring with the white flowers. They're kind of dirty in the fall.
And they're gonna make
Yeah.
a bet. They're gonna stick to your feet.
Oh,
I don't
okay,
know about that.
all right. All right, thank you.
What is there now?
That's
It's a red maple.
Red maple?
It's red maple, so we put
Yeah.
another hide maple.
Yeah.
Catalpa's another one that's really
Those are
pretty.
so pretty, yeah.
Right, but they kind of dirty in the fall
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
They're also, they grow so fast, and we have a catalpa somewhere else.
Oh,
They
the
lose their
weep-
branches.
yeah, weeping willow is out.
Mhm.
So it's too dry up there anyway.
Yeah, all right.
Do you have a copy of the arborist letter with you?
It's in the file.
It's in the file, okay.
Sticking out.
I have reviewed.
Yeah, the arborist sent
Well
us
said.
along it. I'm sure
I
you-
got the email. This one, actually.
Yeah, yes, I have.
Then I can ask about the audience and I'll close it.
Is there anyone in the audience?
No. What do you want to see after it's done? Do you want to see a picture of the new tree, or do you want them to come back in and tell them it's done so that you can go out and look at it, or what do you want to do?
What would you like to do, Bob?
I'm asking.
You're not gonna get an answer.
I personally would be happy with confirmation it's done and an email with a picture showing it's done. I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
Okay.
And 17's gonna be starting pretty soon, so I'll be in the area as well.
He doesn't miss much.
Now, how are you gonna take it down?
When they're taking their trees
They're taking down 5
we'll hire
trees
them
that
to do the
size.
street
Okay.
at the same
Close.
time.
Yeah,
Oh, you're gonna have, yeah, because they're doing it right next door.
The equipment's there, we figure trashing up the entire area, if we take it out there, that's what we came now
Good timing.
to do it.
yes, because some people had to get cranes to,
Yeah, they're gonna have to have something really big for these trees. So, I have a question about when the tree should be planted. They're gonna be doing some grading right on the other side of, this is the property line here. We'll be doing some grading over here, I understand, so I'd like to wait till that's done to put the tree in.
That's
So,
fine.
you can give us a time, but I'd like to,
I think we'd like it planted this year.
Oh, yeah,
okay, they should be
Yep.
finished.
Well, this year being,
Yeah.
between now and fall.
If this,
right.
if for some
Yeah,
reason,
we should
I
be able to get it in
think
the
that's a
fall.
bad idea, we'll come back and ask. That's fine. We don't mind putting it in now, but I think it'll be.
No, no, right.
Let them get through the major stuff.
Yeah. All right, great, thank you.
Motion to close the public hearing?
second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Motion to issue a negative determination?
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
You're done.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
See, eyeballing me, Mr. Lydia. He just wants to continue the shame. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. I deserve it. That was stupid.
Did you really get buried?
He got pulled out. He couldn't push it, and his dog wouldn't pull it.
He's blushing.
Welcome to
Thank
Sutton. It's gonna happen.
It was a stupid move.
I'll convey you back.
It looks so, yeah, please tell John.
Just wait till you get the bill.
He did great.
He was on town time. Alright, guys.
Have a good night.
Good
Okay,
night.
you should all have a copy of the 2-page erosion control information stuff for the order conditions. What I did was I gave everybody a copy of the yellowed out area that Brandon sent me. It would be easier if, I don't know if any of you can read the other one. He sent it by email. I know Joyce didn't get a chance.
Well, you gave me a copy Monday, I read it.
Yeah. So, I don't know, it's up to you guys, what you wanna do with this?
I read it and read Bob's comments, and
I have responded to Bob's comments, and all the changes that go along with it are, and some other stuff that I, after reading it a second time, I thought could be improved upon, I have here in yellow.
Which is different than what we got in front of us, right?
Not necessarily.
The
Because
one
my
that
copy wouldn't
I
have.
sent to everyone, well, is the version 2. So,
And that's what you have in front of you.
yeah.
Same one that's up there.
Yeah,
Well,
I didn't print out the
In that
other
case, I think we still should change a word in the second paragraph.
Which is it?
Please read all conditions stated in the order of special order of conditions and make sure that your contractor read it instead of make sure all your.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And-
Both the applicant and the contractor are responsible for adhering to the conditions of the order. Both parties may be
Yeah,
fined for
above that,
violations.
see that, and make sure that, all right, that's correct up there. That's not what I got on my sheet. That's why I was asking
that's-
if my sheet was
that's
the
an
same
old
one.
version.
yeah, the sheet's different.
And I think you could take please off the
I haven't
beginning
seen
of
it.
that.
Sure, and I have what's up there.
The printout's different.
Trying to be polite.
Read.
You want it crossed off and changed?
Oh, I see, okay.
On the second page, under erosion controls, what's it, well, tell me if you think that that's definitely not, that's gone already.
Sorry, going up there.
Yeah, I think so. But before that, it says, even if the order expired. It just seems awkward. If it's still in that's still in there. See, you're gonna take off the, tell me if you think this section's yearly inspection should go here or up, that's out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's in
that's
there.
just a comment.
that's just a comment. That's just for us.
That's it, yeah, okay, right.
Even if the order is
It comes out.
expired.
It comes out,
Okay, now, even if the order expires, sounds to be a little awkward,
I'll read it. Erosion controls must be installed and in good working order at all times. If they are not in good working order, you'll be required to repair or replace them until such a time that a certificate of compliance is requested. See below. Even if the order is expired.
Yeah, that's a little,
Even if the order has expired,
it's just a little
or
awkward.
just take it
You
out.
take it out all.
I would just say take it out,
Yeah.
yeah, because you're saying it at all times.
And this-
Until you get the certificate.
This also gets back to you do an annual inspection.
Yeah,
And I mentioned that down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Or you could say, if you wanted to leave it in, this even applies if your order has expired as a new sentence.
I'll leave that to you.
I don't think you need it.
I'd drop it out myself, but I see why it's
That's
there.
just more.
Less is
Yeah.
more, okay. Next.
Those are the only two things I had.
Now, when you did this, did you put the two pages together?
I don't know why it notifies here.
What you see there is what you got.
Okay, because the reason I'm asking is after you're done with all this, you get it on just two pages.
Yeah, notify
You know,
doesn't
that's
need to
part-
be there,
That's part
does
of
it?
it. I can't quite get it on to two
It doesn't have to be
pages.
notified. It could be just the
Yeah.
applicant's schedule.
Yeah.
Sidelines,
Yeah, I could try
Reduce
that, I
your
could
print.
try that,
reduce your print.
I could try that.
How about,
when we're done.
the applicant must notify and schedule? Why does notify have to be there? The applicant must schedule,
Yeah,
redundant.
take out notify and,
Where is this?
right after
We're going down.
pre-construction field meeting?
Yeah,
Right after the one we were talking about, Brandon. Right under erosion controls, next one down.
yeah.
Right there.
Okay. The applicant must, okay, the redundant,
Yeah,
gotcha. Must schedule, yeah.
We talk about the pre-construction meeting on the first page, too.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of important to
You might put the rest of the stuff about the pre-construction meeting in the same place. That's all.
well, other than he's talking about the 10-day
Yeah, it's
appeal,
different.
so,
It's only one line, it doesn't take up that much space in the first page.
Yep.
And the pre-construction meeting is so important.
Yep.
That I think it's worth mentioning it twice.
Is a vote on it, just do.
We're making things bold, Brandon.
Yeah.
What do you think about, I'm going back to erosion control again. That you maybe bold up such a time that a certificate of compliance is requested.
Which one is it?
Just the erosion controls must be installed and in good working order at all times.
Yeah.
You know, this is the only place that we're really saying that they have to be in place until you have an order of conditions, or a complete order of conditions, certificate of completion, right? Will be required to repair,
You will be required to repair or replace them until such a time that a certificate of compliance is requested. See
Yeah.
below.
and I didn't know if, highlight that a little bit.
Oh, certificate of compliance?
Yeah,
Okay, you want me to bold that one?
I'm suggesting it just because it's, make it stand out, that, you know, we are saying something here.
Absolutely.
Well, you can take out such time and just say, until a certificate of compliance, and put that bold. Is requested. I don't think you need such time in there. It's a little superfluous.
Yeah.
Why don't you bold until, too?
Okay. What was that? There you go. That look good? Having the right balance of regular and bold is always, it's an art.
But still, is it still more than 2 pages?
I just adjusted the
Font?
margins, so let's see. Still 3.
And if you take that, tell me
Yeah,
the paragraph for
did you take
erosion
this out?
controls, it's gonna,
I did, yeah.
That's already out?
I did, it's already out.
What font do you have it on?
Oh, yeah.
Are you on 16?
Let's see here. Oh, it's 14.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna do it.
Yeah, take down 12 or 13 if you can.
I'll start,
If you have
what-
13.
oh, wait a minute, yeah, I'll start by bringing it down.
Try 12, you know,
Okay,
the
let's
bold
see.
and everything's in there.
Well, let's try 15.
Yeah, not 13, but
Try
it's
12.5.
13, yeah. There
Perfect.
you go. There you go.
12.5 font.
Okay.
Move this little tree down to the bottom.
I
And
don't think it's gonna fit, is it? Yeah,
there it
pull
is.
everything.
Look at that.
is that tree in jurisdiction?
Is it 2.5 caliber?
2 pages.
Look at
Need to
that.
be taken down?
Beautiful.
You could put next to it if you want to remove it, it's a, the letter.
What else was there? So that's that.
You good? Can I take out the yellow now?
I'm good.
Oh, I don't
Yep.
know, I like,
Well, you might as well vote on it, just to, I know it's not an application, but I think that,
Make a motion to approve the permit primer.
second,
All those in favor?
aye. I think the
glad you
sub,
called it the permit primer. Or the primer.
Merry old England.
Anything else? Anything on the track sheets are all pretty much status quo, right?
Now send me that cleaned copy so that I
Yes,
can
ma'am.
make the copy.
4.
Wanda, send out the copies of all those minutes tomorrow and have everybody respond to you that they've got them.
Yeah. Then
Yeah, because I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's got something to do with Verizon or.
I'll go through my email again. I looked quickly at the
I
beginning of the
wanna say
meeting.
that- Well, it might be my computer too. We have a new young man who's a tech that's gonna be working on computers and I said he's gonna spend a lot of time in my office. I don't know why. We don't know why.
Brandon, that 11 Rams one, did you,
I went there today.
you went there today?
So I went there, I saw a bunch of pictures,
Yeah.
all right? Is that on the agenda?
Well, no, I didn't put on the agenda, I thought I did, but I didn't. When I went to print the copy of the signed
there,
paper, I don't have it.
So, could be ready for next week.
Right, because I don't have, I couldn't do anything, I computer, with the Fiesta. That was the problem we had today.
We'll talk about it, Leland Hill and Central Pike too. Yep. So, Ramshawn, they took down some trees along the right-hand side of the house, as I remember, in order to put in the septic system. Yep, and they have their retaining wall. They were supposed to put some blueberry bushes down by the water. So, I'll have to check on that. I got it in my pictures. But if you wanna move on, it's not on the agenda, we'll take care of it next time.
Yeah, and the track sheet, I just printed out the last one, because there's really nothing going on with the others. So, I don't, let's see, I think that's.
We got a, what, an email or something about the solar farm that they think they're in compliance?
They are not in compliance. Okay. Give me a moment. And I think my phone, trying to download, I ran out of juice. Anyway, today I went there. 2 abutters came out and found me. Hello.
My friend Brandon.
Yeah. Hey, can I talk to you? Yeah. The thing that I'm surprised about is that there's no gully erosion on that hill. I was really surprised with all the rain we had on Tuesday and the snow melt. It wasn't worse than it was. That being said, there's definitely erosion problems at the bottom of the hill. The siltation controls, and I give them credit because they put the wire fencing on the back of it, so they're kind of like silt fence on steroids. Still need some help. Even with the straw bales in front of it, still needs help. Especially at the base of the hill with that long riprap. Remember that riprap strip they're gonna put in? Because they got the vegetated swale that's running along parallel to 146 behind all the properties. And then that goes into the riprap swale where it gets steep. At the bottom of the riprap swale, they have double rows of silt fence straw bale combos. And there's still sediment getting past it. So I foresee a bucket brigade. It's not the worst thing I ever saw, but a bucket brigade is in order to fix that area. There's another spot where they put up spoils right up on the silt fence, and the silt fence is a little cockeyed because of it. It's just the wrong place to put it. I think that pile needs to be moved. And the thing that surprised me the most, it blindsided me, and I don't remember this, but I noticed there's a whole bunch of trees on, if you go in on the right side of the driveway, there's wetland, okay? And there was a little finger of wetland that came almost all the way up to the highway. And this was an issue when they decided to reroute their entrance to take down that old farmhouse, because it was too dangerous to go in from Route 146. So the commission allowed them to go in from a second location off of the driveway, which required a little wetland crossing, which they call the wetland finger. And we were very careful to make sure they found a spot where they do the least amount of cutting and didn't have to cut down any trees. So I went there today, and at least 5 good-sized trees were gone. And what I found out from Mr. Brown who lives at 86. He's the one in the house up the top of the hill. You use the same driveway. I guess that the line that's coming from the utility poles on the highway is positioned such that the line goes over that wetland finger. All right, so it's not coming straight down the driveway. It's kind of cockeyed from that, so it has to go over that wetland finger. And I guess he's saying that it was National Grid that decided that the trees needed to come down. I don't ever remember that being conditioned, and permission was never asked. Spoke to, forget if it was him or Mr. So I spoke to Mr. Brown, and I spoke to Mr. Ron Clark at number 76, Worcester Provincetown Turnpike. He states that it was Wagner Wood Cutting that did the cutting for National Grid. So we have a name of a contractor as well. So I've been in touch with Charlie Roberts, who is the site project manager. And there's also another spot on if you're going in on the left side of the driveway, silt's coming down off the hill and down the driveway, and it's almost all the way to the top of the straw bales. I said, our MO is once it gets halfway, you need to dredge it out. And it's almost to the top. He told me that his crew would be there tomorrow morning before the rain to dredge it out. But we also got to talk about the cutting that was done. And they're gonna have to redo, I think, the whole bottom line along the swale of erosion controls and beef them up. They're kind of in rough shape. Also, remember the little isolated wetland where that spring was? They have a semicircle of silt fence around that. That's in rough shape. That needs to be redone. So basically, this site is, just need to refresh everything.
What's address you're talking about?
80 Worcester Providence Turnpike. Okay, so Mr. Roberts sent me a text. It reads, "My site contractor is dredging the bottom area as we discussed before rain tomorrow." He sent this to me a few hours ago before the meeting. "Please let me know if you see anything else. 98% of that area cut for utility at entrance was cleared by utilities tree clearer this past fall." I presume utility is National Grid. "I own the fresh cut as we were told National Grid had approval. I instructed my crew to trim limbs there and we were to cut more along driveway, but utility assisted on site. We cut down without letting me knowing in advance. I just want to own up that as I got entire story from my crew. CEC, the system owner, has been informed." I just want to say, the commission put a lot of thought and work, and as well as the consultants, about trying to avoid that area, and then it just got cut by the utility without any consultation from the commission.
Well, should we get in touch with them?
Well,
I think
ultimately,
Brandon's got the ball rolling pretty well.
Yeah.
We'll see how they respond before next meeting, and you might have to do something.
I think it's appropriate to have contractor and whoever else show up in the next meeting to do some explaining. Do some splaining, as
Yep. Put them on the agenda.
say on the I Love Lucy.
What they're gonna do to mitigate.
You want them in the, we only have 2 on there so far, so can we be at 7:35? That sound all right?
Fine by me.
When you say contractor, which contractor?
Yeah, can you notify
CEC,
them?
Mr. Roberts, he's the guy in charge, so he's the one that's been answering and responsible for all goings on.
I don't disagree with you, I just, you said contractor, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, there's multiple contractors, but he's the site PM.
We have to sign this one?
I guess the other question I have, do we have any
That's a tree one with
Yeah.
17, yeah.
annual type? Not
I gotta check.
I also have on here spring site visits, unfortunately I couldn't print them. I think I had sent you copies of that, by email, so I'm gonna have to straighten them out, because I had some written ones. I think I even printed you copies.
Yep.
I don't know if they should also be on there. We've got 1315 Assistant Sunrise Drive, where they replanted trees. I don't know if they're up or not. That was on a determination and all of those. There's a whole list here. I don't know if anyone has seen any of these, or...
Well, I went by Buttonwood Ave the other day. That looks good. There was no erosion that I could see at all.
That one looks really good, yeah.
No, that's not done though, right?
That's, that was the...
I believe so. They haven't taken out the silt fence or anything, but,
We haven't done the city.
yeah,
Well, they
no,
can't-
they can't see
Yeah.
it
That's why I
yet.
say it's not done.
Not
because-
done, but
There's no erosion or,
Because there's others that have left from, like, the February and March meeting. There's, the other side of the page is left from other. From 2016, there are others. 83 Briggs Road, they're still working on that, and the highway department is gonna be fixing that road, so
what road?
83 Briggs Road.
right along the pond there.
Yeah, he's supposed to be fixing that road, and, I don't know when they're doing it. He talked to me in March about it, and, 'cause he was looking for these people's names and everything to get in touch with them. There's also stuff that was planted at 11 Carr Street. That
I
was
think
last
I already,
year.
I went down there last year.
Yeah, I think I can remove
You can
that.
take that one off, yeah.
I gotta check to see if they need a certificate. I think that was one that
Yeah, you can
I
take
remember
off
I-
277, we went there to carry Murray's there.
Okay, so that one's okay too?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
that was last fall.
Yeah, some of these are.
You and I were both
like
there.
I say, printed. What about there's stuff here from 2015. 171, that's an ongoing thing, so I can take that off. No, that's up to date. 34 Von Hall, that's been done, hasn't it? I believe that's been done.
Yes, it has.
42, well, that's ongoing.
Yeah,
In that regard,
yes.
I made a request for additional funds. Has any,
Did anything come in on that, Wanda?
I believe that Shayna came in asking some questions about my
Just sent
employment status.
email.
Who did?
Email.
The
That's an email.
fishes.
fishes, yeah.
About your employment status?
Some about contract with the town.
Oh, yeah,
What was
yeah, I
that?
told her that you did not work for, you worked for conservation.
That's right.
not the town. I haven't heard from her since, so.
Well, I think you gotta send her a letter saying there's gonna be a cease and desist order issued unless the fees are paid.
Well,
Right? I mean, what else
just
can you
sent that
do?
out, didn't you? Last month?
I'm with Bob.
I've sent an invoice to you, I
Yeah,
believe, and there's not enough funds. And the
Right.
reason, I'll say it again, on the record, the reason why I'm asking for funds, because this has been a very unusual and difficult project.
That's been on the docks for a long time.
It's been on the desk for a long, long time, and it's just been a very high maintenance kind of project. So, that's,
By the way, they did put the wrong wattles in with the plastic, and they drove over them putting the bridge in the last I looked, but, so that,
Chris,
that-
about the site?
I think that's a good idea. Tell them there'll be a cease and desist if,
One, but were they billed? You did bill them, right? I would say we bill them again, and if,
I
Send a statement.
believe I
Yes.
sent the email, because you sent an email. I think I sent the email to her. I'll have to check on that.
Well,
I sent an email explaining that I work for the Conservation Commission,
Right.
and that there was a vetting process and the whole thing.
think
I haven't been
sent
fired
it
yet.
to her. I'll check on that. You haven't had fired.
And I think I explained that, you know, this has been a very unusual, difficult site, and that it's rare, but it's necessary in this case.
so we're in agreement on that one, right?
Agreement on what?
Sending a statement again, and if not, in explaining if it's not paid, there'd be a cease and desist, right?
All right.
And if
I
it's
don't
not paid by the 15th of April, it will be a cease and desist.
And
Or
Yeah, or how-
19th or whatever.
However you, yeah.
And along those lines,
I didn't even know if I can get help on it.
I think it's because of the issues at 80 Worcester Providence Turnpike, I think it's be very likely that I'm gonna ask for more funds on that one.
Do you want to send one out on 80 while we're doing this?
Uh,
Or is that
We'll
too?
discuss it at the next meeting when they're in
When
here.
they're in, right, that sounds good, yeah, it's, the
There'll be a cause and
consultant fee
effect statement.
schedule is, really revolves around perfect conditions and everything goes smoothly. When it doesn't go smoothly, and the whole idea is to try to keep costs down, and try to make people feel like they're not getting taken advantage of. But when things don't go as planned, and you have issues like we had at the 42 Bond Hollow and now at 80 Worcester Providence Turnpike, I might need more funds. So, and again, it's rare, but it's, whenever I ask for more money, it's so far always been situations like that when things haven't gone the way they're supposed to.
Okay, so anything else we need to?
Central Turnpike, Leland Hill, what did you say? Did you go out to that or no?
I did go there. So, let me bring it up on the map.
What's the address on that one?
82 Central Turnpike. Come on, 82. Hello. Okay. So, right here. Okay. Oh, don't let me forget, I got one more on Town Farm Road that I saw on my way to get stuck. And meet.
Be careful, it might be one of your relatives.
So you might recognize this property right here. We did an RDA on it last year for the barn removal. So what I can see, the water starts up in this area, little pond, this is a wetland, right? Then it goes across the field, goes underneath Dodge Hill Road, continues through this field. This is a wet meadow, this is a wet meadow. Then
You know about this?
Then the water goes underneath Leland Hill Road right here, and there's a culvert underneath the road. And on this side of the road, there's a, looks like it was at least 12-inch black corrugated plastic pipe, vinyl pipe. It wasn't connected to the pipe underneath the road, at least not anymore. But there was a complaint that it was plugged up, no longer plugged up. And I saw sections of this corrugated pipe in here, but also further down the stream, laying in the stream. And I'm trying to figure out what could that be for? Don't know. Give me a second, I'll show you something. So, there we go. Stream goes along the north side, it winds around the north side of the house. Okay, so it comes under the road right here, This pipe, doesn't look like it's causing a problem at the moment. It looks like the water's getting through. I don't know if it's getting through as well as it's supposed to, but there was water getting through. So I just would like an answer from somebody. I was wondering if we could ask the person, because the only person it could possibly be is the person in this house at 82. And I think it would be appropriate to send a letter asking them to come and offer an explanation. And at a minimum, remove the pipe, because I don't see why it's necessary. And it shouldn't just be left in the stream. It's a weird situation. Yeah.
You want them to come in and explain the pipe?
Yeah.
Is it a stream there? Or-
Yep.
So I'll find out what it is. I don't have any information on that.
32 Town Farm Road.
That's supposed to remind you.
Well, you said it was 82 Central Turnpike.
Well,
Different discussion.
there's a different one.
discussion.
You're one behind.
We have so many notes on them, we need a week to figure them out.
Come on. And I just saw this today for the first time.
Running out of sticky notes.
Why is it coming up? Why is my computer going so slow?
Oh, well,
Here we go.
Look at the time.
I know, I agree.
bed.
I agree. Okay, here we go. Come on in.
Okay, what's this one now?
32 Town Farm Road. Sorry, my computer is lagging.
Is that the section between Boston Road and West Sutton?
Yes.
Turkey Flats? My father used to call it.
So it's this property right here with all the little wetland symbols. There's a house over here, and there's a gravel driveway that butts the edge of the wetland. And there's been, looks like there's been some clearing and some
Phil.
grubbing. I don't know if it's fill at this point, but something's been done. Definitely been done without a permit within 100 feet of BVW, because it's the first time I ever heard it. Okay, here we go. See this little square right here? So you got this driveway. This is really wet right here. Then you got this square of a little patch, a little copse of forest right here. The trees were still up, at least most of them, but the understory had been, if there was any shrubbery, it's gone, and the soil's bare. So-
I did kind of notice them doing some stuff there last year, but
Okay. So, regardless, it's work within 100 feet without a permit or permission. So I suggest sending them a letter as well, asking them to show up. Anybody know these folks?
Bagduses, I think.
Let's see what the survey says. Slopes down to the flat area. Okay. DEP wetlands. Okay. And soils. Any vernal pools or anything like that? Any FEMA flood zones? No. And where are the soils? Okay. At a minimum, it's work within 100 feet without permission.
So if I bring them both in at 7 o'clock, because you got 28 Wheelock, which has been continuing almost every meeting, so I can do that.
So that area right there, maybe a little bit along the road as well.
Clearing?
Yeah, clearing and soil disturbance. That's all I have.
Anybody else?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.